This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
Experience a progressive lens engineered with AI from Essilor, powered by individual measurements of your visual behavior. A lens personalized to you by an Essilor expert. Discover Verilux XR Track and enjoy instantly sharp vision in motion and seamless transitions from near to far. Find your local Essilor expert today at Essilor.com.
This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Boobies!
Hi.
Hello, and welcome to
Boobies.
Put your chest into it. Say that shit with your chest.
Say yes and.
Yes. And welcome to Boobies. Yeah, we said that. I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Joshua.
And today we're here to talk to you about an old Friends movie.
Yes. Stephen Cognetti, to be precise, and his new movie, 825 Forest Road.
825 Forest Road came out just this past Friday on Shudder. It's a Shudder exclusive. So
we jumped on that.
Yeah, so you can watch it ASAP. You can watch it now. It is available. But yeah, it's I will say this movie, just to get a little bit into it, the creature design kind of low-key freaked me out. I've been scared in my house because I'm here alone, and it's literally in the middle of the day, but I still have been like, oh shit, what if that bitch comes up on me?
Well, and that's funny. Well,
and I'm going to walk out to all my plates stacked up.
All of the scenes are in the daytime in the movie. So it does really give you that eerie, can happen. It's not even just a night situation, it's happening at all hours. But yeah, I actually thought the same thing, especially when the character Maria was in the bedroom and then
and she
pops
around
out
the corner
behind
and
the bed. Yeah, I thought that actually was ooh, I got spooked too. So this movie was written and directed by Stephen Cognetti.
Yes, and if you go back and listen to our interview with him that we did for the Hell House series, he drops, and this was 2 years ago now, he dropped hints about, I know. It's when you think about it, it's been 2 years.
Because that was the tail end of 23.
And Hell House 4 had just come out.
Believe something like that,
or was it 5?
No, Hell House 4.
4. The 5th one is coming out.
Yeah, because 4 is,
and it will no longer be found footage. And it will be in theaters.
Ooh, we definitely need to go watch that.
I don't know if it'll be in all theaters, but it's going to be in theaters from what I understand.
You're in Dallas, so I'm sure maybe we could find something there.
Yeah. But it is, we talked with him and he mentioned this film that he was working on, 825 Forest Road, 825 Forest Road. And now it was really cool to get to hear it in the brainchild stage and then getting to see it
as
fully produced, as a finished product. It was really neat. I thought it was super cool, hearing about it and then getting to actually watch it.
Yeah, because there's one thing watching them and kind of having the distance from not knowing these people at all who make them, but we actually got to sit down and talk to this person. So
Yeah.
it just makes it a little bit kind of more magical, honestly. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it does. It's like, whoa, we know him.
It's really cool. Yeah, because honestly, it was a lot different, right? From the other previous movies, Hell House, but still had kind of a lot of the same like his taste, like his POV, his point of vision, his view. But
like with the piano, and then the
footage
mannequin.
with the cameras, and like how it would glitch, and then how the mannequins would kind of move, how like the clowns did in Hell House, where they would kind of like almost like stop motion, almost like just kind of boom, and then they're here, and then they're there, right in front of you. But
it freaked me out when it was behind her and all you could see was the little hand.
Oh, dude, that was crazy.
I was like,
and she's just like, Chuck, and it was really cool to see something different, and also really have his stamp on it. And the actors, I actually really found that like my jumping already into like my favorite chapter was honestly Maria's chapter, because I thought like she was a really good actress. Like, not that everybody did well, but I continue. Sorry.
No.
What are you gonna disagree?
I at first was like, this Maria character is so dull.
Well, yeah, because they didn't. But when we got to her chapter, right?
Yeah, no, and right whenever, I guess it's because I have bipolar disorder, and she was like, I have bipolar disorder. I was like, oh, I can resonate. I can connect with you. So I was like, that's really cool. But
because how often do you get to see like a depiction, of like, people with, bipolar disorder?
An accurate representation of it too. Yeah. And not just being like, well, she has mood swings. Like, that's not all it is. But whenever she mentioned that, I was like, oh, okay, maybe I like her a little bit more. And then, because at the beginning of the film, I was like, I don't know if I can sit through a whole chapter of Maria. Like, and then.
Because she almost felt a bit like cold and standoffish on the first, parts,
And she just felt like she didn't have anything to like any way to flesh out her character.
She almost kind of felt like just a bystander, like just a character in the background.
And this is nothing against the actress. I think she did a great job portraying Elizabeth Vermiglia.
I believe so, yeah. Elizabeth Vermiglia. And then just to kind of quickly, real quick, we have Isabelle played by Catherine Miller and Julian played by Joe Bandelli. Terrence, Brian Anthony Willis, Chuck.
And Joe Bandelli was also a producer who I believe we also interviewed him.
Yes. And he was also in Hell House. He was a cameraman, I think, at one point.
In the second one.
And we have Ashley played by
He's one of the cameramans who gets hanged.
Yeah. So, R.I.P. And Madeline Garcia plays Ashley. This Darren F. Earl II plays Luke. We had a pretty extensive cast with this one. But yeah, getting back to Miss Elizabeth, I thought when it got to her chapter, like it really it added a lot of depth, and I felt like also it's not as maybe not just her story. That's also kind of where I felt like the story was kind of picking up a lot, whereas and that's just adds to it. Whereas in Chuck's and Isabel's chapters, we were just getting the foundation, so I know that adds to it too. But
definitely the story was taking off at that point, and we were getting like the last tidbits of information that we needed before
to go into the fourth chapter.
Yes, exactly. And so, and I actually ended up liking Maria's chapter one of the best as well.
Oh, and also on that note, because don't we always love when movies are broken up this way? Like, I love digesting a movie in sections. Like, and it was really cool that it was basically almost, the same time frame, but just through three different perspectives.
Yeah, exactly. That was really neat. And I was sitting there thinking that the moment I saw chapter 1, I was like, oh, here we go. Like I was excited because I was like, we love when we get chapters. And then there was other times, like normally going back to mentioning the creature design or the ghost design. I normally am not a fan of seeing the face of the ghost. Like we know this from like The Conjuring and other things. Like I think it's just it's scarier when there's something left to be desired and it's up to the imagination. But like this one, it fucking scared me.
Yeah.
It got me pretty good. And I was like, this is creepy. Like this haunting. I literally texted Andrew and I was like, low-key wish you were home right now because I'm a little fucking scared.
You were watching in your living room on the
on that 75-inch TV.
Yeah, it's a huge ass TV.
It's really big.
It's cool. No. I also thought we're jumping so much, but like the part with like the mannequin behind her in the room and like the hands start moving, like that was also super like creepy.
Yeah, that was. There were so many aspects of this film that were really creepy. And
well done.
Yeah, I think they did Stephen Cognetti does like, because Hell House is one of the few other movies that has like legitimately scared me. And with that clown. And I read a lot of reviews on this film, and the reviews were not so great, even though it's only been out for a little bit. But a lot of people were expecting Hell House like level of terrifying, but I think it's just completely different because it's not found footage.
Yeah, and this
like
relies
found footage brings its own element of horror with it.
And this movie definitely relies more on the storytelling, the plot, like the character development, the build up, as opposed to a found footage film. And I think that this is him. Also, like I feel like he's gonna like start doing so much more. You know what I mean? Like this is just a branch off from what he's known, and it just shows you kind of his range and a little bit of his versatility and his creativity. And I think I was reading some of the reviews too, and I think that people were kind of a bit harsh. Because it's like, how about you write and direct your own film? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
try it yourself
and do it
like
this
the same
well.
thing whenever people come in and they're like, I can get this on Amazon at my store. And I'm like, well, fucking do it. Fucking do it then. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, or like with an artist when like that somebody sees abstract art and like the banana taped to the fucking painting with the duct tape and stuff. That sold for like millions of dollars. And people are like, I could have done that, but you didn't.
You didn't. And
you didn't do it.
You couldn't have, because this only comes from one person's mind. But all of that to say that, like, for
Stephen Cognetti, you did a good job.
You did a good job, my guy. And also, like, it's like it was like it was such a good story, and then there's a twist, and then there's like a whole, like, the whole connecting of everything. It was, I thought, like a really like good, like, A to B to C to D, and then we got here, and then the finale. Like, I don't know, because I was reading some of the comments on it. They were saying that there was like poor, like the ending wrapped up horribly, and that like it wasn't written well. And I'm like, it was actually really good.
It literally was like,
and it felt super real, because they felt like real people to me in a way. You know what I mean? Not just like a movie, if that makes sense. Like even the like the way they were talking, even like the way the script was written, like it just felt kind of like real people, like normal people. You know?
I think that's what probably doing so much in the found footage universe like came into handy, because with the found footage universe, it has to be
grounded in reality,
real, and it has to sound like real people, otherwise you've lost the entire premise. And so it's like I feel like he's probably got that down pat, because he's like done so many brilliant found footage films. So
So without further ado, maybe we should discuss the film.
Yeah. So we
Let's
start with
jump
a
into
quote
it. Yeah.
from C.S. Lewis. No one ever told me that grief felt so much like fear. And it was good. I was like, okay, setting the tone
Yeah.
with just a little quote.
And C.S. Lewis of all people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it does, like, when you think about grief and how it brings so much emotion, and it's kind of rooted almost in the fear, because grief is like the fear of like, well, what am I going to do without whatever it is, or losing or transitioning without whatever it is you've lost. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, we start with that, and then we go to our opening characters, Ashley and her friend, um, which is they're talking through kind of like how we're doing right now through
Yeah.
webcam. And Ashley's going on about how she's kind of cracked the code on the town's big secret.
On Ashland Falls. She's
Mhm.
got books galore, maps all laid out. And they're sitting there in the middle of conversation. We find out that her friend was grounded and can no longer come over because they were talking about this sort of thing. And her mom like marched her over to the library, made her return all the books and stuff. And they're in the middle of a conversation whenever she gets like bang, bang, bang on her door.
Mhm.
And she quickly is like, hold just a minute, and puts all of her stuff up underneath the bed and is like, come in. And then no one does anything. So
Yeah.
she's like, I said, come in. And then 3 more knocks are on the door. And she
Yeah.
opens it, which I was like, "Ooh, girl, maybe don't do that." And her friend was like, Ash, like, didn't you say your parents are taking your brother to college? Like, no one's home.
Yeah.
And she goes and she opens the door, but
No one's there.
no one's there.
And then whenever she goes to close it, as soon as she closes it, it starts knocking again, like immediately. It's like as soon as she, boom, closes the door.
Well, she goes
Right?
out and she goes exploring first.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I was like, cute house, but was there someone just standing there in the corner?
I think
Because
so.
there was. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it was
Mhm.
Helen.
Yeah.
And she was in a different house than the
Yeah.
Rose Lane one, right?
Yeah, it was not the same
Okay.
house.
Okay.
Because I believe this
Because
is
she
also
ends up
happening
later like
as
complete suicide.
unaliving herself. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I believe
Later
that
on,
it's all kind of happening like almost simultaneously.
simultaneously.
Yeah, like maybe like this was like the morning right before, or something like that they were
Yeah.
moving in.
Sorry, I just got a notification from like BBC. Cadbury has made a cream egg that stands 3 foot tall and weighs as much as a newborn horse.
Wow, that's a heavy ass
That's
Cadbury
a
egg.
big ass egg.
For Easter, I saw a
Yeah, for
sign that
Easter.
was like, Easter is canceled. Jesus got deported.
Oh no. And Easter's on 420 this year, so
It is. Blaze it, faggot. Ooh,
yeah.
I can say that though.
You can say that because you are one. No, I'm just kidding.
Shame me. No, it's funny because, oh my God, my nephew the other day, he's so innocent. He doesn't know, right? I was making paper airplanes for him, and he was coloring on them like dinosaurs, but then coloring them in. And he comes up to me and he's like, "Here, you can have this one. It's a rainbow one." Because you love rainbows. And I was like, "Oh, thank you." And he was like, I like rainbows too. Rainbows are beautiful. And I was like, thank you, Kino.
Aw.
Yeah. It was funny though.
That's
I
so
got it.
sweet.
I recorded him because I thought it was the most funniest thing. I was just like, what?
That's funny.
Anyways.
Oh, what a sweet baby.
He's
But
sweet.
yeah, there's somebody standing in the corner. And then, yes, as soon as she gets back into the room and closes the door, like just the moment it like the lock clicks. It's like, and I was like, ooh, that's nasty. That's creepy.
And she's rightfully freaked out, and she turns and looks at her friend like on the monitor, and she's like, looks like she just saw a ghost. And then it cuts out, like, and then we get our title card.
Yep, we get our title card, nice and simple. It comes on the just text on a screen. And then we get shots of just a very picturesque looking town.
Yeah. Very beautiful. It looks like almost like Stars Hollow-ish, like Gilmore Girls, which I think is also like, what, they're in like Pennsylvania or something like this. I think is where it was filmed, something like that. So that gives the same vibes, because I think that's the same area, but it does.
Yeah,
it looks
I think
super
in
cute.
Gilmore Girls, they're in Massachusetts or
Something
Connecticut.
Like something like
is
that.
Connecticut and Mass? I don't know. Never
no,
mind.
Connecticut and Massachusetts are
they're different,
but they're close. But I believe they're close. They're all in the same area. That's why they're all,
I failed geography.
No,
not really. I was actually really good at it, but it's been years.
Yeah. Well, we don't ever go in that area. But they are, we're getting, shots of this town and stuff. And also, our main characters, Chuck and Maria, being welcomed into their new home by the realtor, Bonnie. And you can tell that there's kind of Bonnie's real pushy, or a little pushy on, getting the house, not sold, because it's already sold, but like, she's just kind of like, you're going to like it here. Like, this is your home, all the things. And then we have Isabelle coming in. And at first I was trying to figure out, like, I don't know why I thought Isabelle was like his daughter or something. But then I was like, okay. But then I was like, okay, no, got it, sister. But yeah, we can already tell that there's kind of like a dynamic here,
Yeah. That maybe not everything is smooth sailing.
They're not close.
Yeah, that's not close-knit family. And I guess the only reason I knew that it was his sister was because I read the synopsis. Like, I typically don't read the synopsis before watching a movie because I don't want it to spoil anything. But I was like, I'm just a little curious. And I was looking for fun facts about it and found none because it's so new. I ended up just reading the whole synopsis, and then I was like, oh.
I went into it blind, so I didn't know. But then it started to make sense immediately, because also I was like, oh, he looks way too young to be like her dad. But and like we kind of get like that little comment from him.
But he does give kind of a paternal role.
Yeah,
like he's attempting to
be her father figure. Yeah, especially later on when the guy comes over and he's kind of like almost keep the door open, And the Bonnie says something about like Isabelle's schooling or scholarship or something like that, and he's like, oh, it'd be good for your art. And she looks at him kind of like, he's like, you still do that, right?
Yeah. You still do that. And then she was like,
Maria,
art? Like, are you fucking kidding me? Because, and then the Maria is like, that's what she got the scholarship for, you dumbass.
Yeah. So it definitely, like, that was the tell of like how, like, well, they're not close, and he's almost trying to, we can tell he's going to be trying to compensate for some time lost and some guilty conscious feelings. And we are walking through the house a little bit, and then my next note is that the roof is leaking.
Because we get chapter 1 Chuck, or we're about to, but the roof is leaking. I don't remember if it happened before because I didn't write that down.
Same, because I only started doing it once I realized that we were getting chapter 2, chapter 3, which I should have known.
Yeah. But, I wrote down chapter 1 Chuck. That's my next note.
Got it.
But I didn't write down that the roof was leaking. I just was like, I'll remember that. So I don't know where it happened in relation to chapter 1 Chuck. But the roof is leaking in several places. They've got buckets in the living room and stuff. And he is on the phone with Bonnie being like,
You
hey,
told
what the
us.
fuck?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you told, like, the owner said that this was a new house or a new roof,
Mm-hmm.
and like this shouldn't be an issue. But with the storms last night, there's rain everywhere. And so he takes a picture to send to Bonnie. And he doesn't quite look at it yet, but he just like sends it over to her. And then we're with um he's like going through, and he's checking to see if Maria's studio is leaking as
Mm-hmm.
well. And this is where we meet Martha the mannequin.
Yes, Martha the mannequin, and we also get introduced to her being a vlogger, a sewing vlogger, and she has her own like web page and stuff. And so, um, we have him asking her that question, and she kind of gives the like, oh, he knows he shouldn't be bothering me while I'm live, and he asked her about the rain, and then she's like, no, like her studio was spared. And then he goes out. Oh, and also the mannequin, which was, I don't understand why I mean, never mind, because you have some pretty spooky dolls. So, um, maybe she has some attachment to it, but the mannequin is spooky. Like,
Yeah, the mannequin with its chalkware face looking. Hold on. I've got a chalkware doll.
yeah. So you can show the people what
It's not exactly
how it
the
looks.
same.
But you guys, this mannequin is like life size, obviously, and spooky. And what is that, Caitlin? Is it soft? Is it plushy? Is it a statue?
No, it's a chalkware. It's made of chalk.
Oh, like you can like, not that you would, but like you could put that on a blackboard and start like writing with it.
Well, I don't know if like it has like a chalky finish to it, but it's more like
Protected,
it's like chalk.
coated.
Yeah. But her face was kind of white and beat
Bring
up
it
like
like
hers.
bring her closer. Do the thing. Do the thing with the hand behind it, so we can get her like in focus. Yeah, there it is, you guys. Yeah, her face was kind of like that, and then like how it looked like almost like her makeup made her look almost like bruised, like the rouging, like
Yeah.
yeah, she's cute. Where do you keep that? By the nightstand?
On the table right across from on my nightstand. On the table right across from where I
Pray.
record this.
Okay.
Yes, where
That's
I pray.
It's funny.
I would turn it around, but it would make a huge old sound. So
it but yeah, we were introduced to all of this, and then he goes outside and he's kind of, because he's checking the roof and stuff, and we're bumping into our neighbor,
Larry.
Mr. Larry, who is an oddball of a guy, but because this is an odd town, and he's already starting to be uh yeah, like asking, or he's being kind of cryptic.
All them questions.
Yeah, and he's being kind of cryptic with his verbiage and like the way he's even structuring like his sentences and stuff.
Yeah, he is. He's like a little key that needs to be cracked, or he's like, I'm the missing puzzle piece that you need.
Yeah,
like he
and
definitely had a role to play.
He's giving information to Chuck that Chuck didn't know, because Chuck's like, we were told that this was a new roof, and he's like, oh, that sucks, like, and he's also like, I couldn't imagine, and I didn't think anybody would ever move into this house. And then I don't remember the exact verbiage, but Chuck mentioned something, and then Larry's like, well, because
Chuck says, like, I hope to get some, like, I'm gonna kind of bring this up with the old owner and get like some return on my investment, basically. And then that's when Larry's like, well, the previous owner killed himself.
Mm-hmm.
He took a rifle and he shot him right in the head.
Yeah, and that's news to Chuck, right? And so, which I get it, that I don't think you, unless it's like a crime, I think, or something like that, like you don't have to mention that.
In certain states, in certain states, you have to disclose if any death happened. But in other states, or like hauntings as well, but in some states you don't. If it's been more than like a certain time span,
It's kind of like don't ask, don't tell, almost, you know?
yeah. If they bring it up, I think they legally have to tell you. But like if it's never mentioned and it's been like past 3 years, which the house was on the market for 3 years, I think it's typically 5 years, but if it's been past 3 years, then they don't have to disclose that information.
Wild. But yeah, we have him getting this information. He's obviously surprised. And then that's whenever he goes back into the house and he's like, I think he was one calling Maria, but then he's also checking the camera footage of something.
Yeah, he's checking all the photos that he took throughout the house. And he realizes that on the photo of the buckets of water on the ground, there's a rifle just on the ground there behind it. And he was kind of like, well, that's weird. But
that happens.
Doesn't really do much about it.
It's funny because that happens. That's such a scary movie thing, because that same thing kind of happens which she does end up doing it, but whenever the light bulb situation in the closet starts happening, and the first time she's just like, yeah, I'll go turn that off, blimp, and then just I'm going right back to sleep.
I know. I would have been like,
the
hold
fuck
on here.
Yeah, I wouldn't have immediately just been like, yeah, I can knock right out.
Yeah,
but
I would have immediately, but I think it's because of how much horror movies we watch. We would be like, that's a ghost.
That's something. That's a red
There's
flag.
a murderer in the home.
Yeah, it's the killer. And so then it's the next day. We're waking up. He's like using the restroom stuff, and then he's
in a bathroom I would kill people for.
It was pretty. Yeah, it was really
It had a pink sink. And it looked like green tile, but it could have just been the way the trees were reflecting off the tile.
No, I think it was definitely giving like seafoamish green. Like it was green or something green. It was green. But kind of like
I liked it.
This is reading blue, but it more blue, but it's green.
Is it like sage?
Yeah, it's more green. But anyways, he's looking outside the window, and to his surprise, because he's like, Maria, and waking her up, he's like, look outside, and what was the name of the mannequin again?
Martha
is outside.
Martha
in
just
the backyard.
Marcia.
Nah, it still sounds, it rhymes.
Yeah,
but she's in the backyard, and he's just like, what? And she's just like, the fuck? And so and doesn't she ask him, or she's like, did you put her out there or something like that? Or
yeah, she's like, why would you do that? And he's like, I didn't do it. And then Isabelle comes out and she's like, what's going on? But we don't see the rest of their interaction yet. We just see him Chuck heading downstairs, and he goes outside, and Martha is for sure out there. And then he's like kind of going up to her when Larry shows up, and he just out of nowhere is like, the town has a lot of unaliving themselves.
Yeah.
There's a lot of suicide. And he's like
asking about Isabelle.
Yeah. He's like, you need to keep an eye on her, because he's like, and out of nowhere, he's just like, I know about your mom. And I was like, dude, this is not Jill.
Yeah, he was like, I looked you up. I found your story or something like that. And then
Maria told him the story.
Oh, that's right. But then and then that's when he's mentioning like, if she's depressed, you need to be careful, because and he keeps mentioning her. And she tends to go after people who are depressed.
Yeah. And says like she has a way of doing things to people. And at first you can kind of be like, okay, who is he talking about? Like, is he talking about Isabelle? Like, what is going on? But then, and he starts walking off whenever Isabelle walks out there. And he's like, read up on the town history a bit, and then join the friends of gardening friends, or Yeah, Friends of Gardening Club. Or like Friends of Gardening or Welcome. And it almost to me sounded like a completely different voice that told him that. And I was like,
when he was walking off.
Yeah. And I was like, is there a different person here? But then like later when we're in Isabelle's point of view, we see Larry like actually say it. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I guess it is just him. But he sounded like his inflection and everything completely changed in that moment.
I think it was just because of like maybe the nature, the tone of the subject matter for him, I guess. But I pick up what you're putting down. Because then, we cut to Chuck going to the library, and he's there and he's getting books from the shelves. And then he passes one of the aisles, and in the middle, he notices, he walks past it, but then he comes back because he sees that there are books just stacked up on the middle of the floor, very neatly.
And very, at least like 3 foot tall.
Oh, yeah. And from like small, largest to smallest. And he goes up to before he goes up to the counter to check out, he starts to hear Ashley, and she's sitting at the table, and she's like, "Don't do it. Don't do it." And he's like, I love how he's like, immediately he's just like, "Is there someone I can call for you?"
Yeah.
And so then she's like, "No."
But clearly she's distraught. She's been crying.
Yeah. And she's just like, return those books and just stop. Like, don't do it. Like, stop looking up. Don't look.
She's like, it's all real. It's all real. And you need to she's like, basically get out of this town. And like, don't do that. But then he kind of ignores her pleas and walks up to the front desk people. And she goes immediately as she goes looking for Forest Road. And he's like, what? And then they kind of just go on about their business. But then he mentions the books, or he mentions that there is a woman back there who's crying and like in need of some help. And then mentions the stack of books, and at that they kind of get all weird.
Yeah, they look at each other and give like that, knowing like there's an insider, but
yeah, they share a look that's very knowing, and they're like, and the guy is just like, I'm on it. So he goes and gets a stack of books, I assume. But
and maybe Ashley as well.
Yeah, and I'm assuming, I guess Ashley. I at this point I thought Ashley was already dead.
Me too. I thought it was a ghost.
Yeah,
maybe she was.
No, I think she ends up
not until the night. Like, it was
that night.
And then it gets reported the next day.
Yeah,
that's when I think. Yeah. Okay, continue.
But does he not go to the Friends of Gardening that night too?
No, I don't think so.
Is it the next day?
Yeah, because right now I believe we're back at home, and because this is when he starts to give
the piano lesson
to that one chick who comes over. But she gets spooked because she's like, there's a woman in the living room at the piano.
Which this part was really creepy because we also get a mention of the town council tragedy in the book that he's reading from 1980. And but yeah, she comes in. I feel like her name was Claire, but I don't really remember. Something like that. And she comes in and he's like, play a C major scale. And so she's like, do, 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 do. But it's all like off key and not quite very good. It sounds about like, well, better than if I tried to play the piano, but, but then he like is like, I'm gonna get you some water, because she seems clearly like distressed, like at her not being able to play very well.
Yeah.
And he's in there getting water whenever all of a sudden, like, you hear her practicing the scales, but then you hear this thud, and then it's a beautiful melody that starts playing, and it's the same melody that we get later in the film as well. And he's like, oh, well, you can play. And then he turns around
She's right there.
She's
And
right
he
there. And the
and he
music's
and
still going.
yeah, and she's like, there's a woman at the piano, and she obviously looks scared and panicked. And as they go and walk back to the living
I just
room, there where the
imagine the
piano
woman was
is.
like, "Get
Yeah,
up!"
that's literally what I'm
Threw
thinking.
her
I was
on the
like, how does that
ground.
even happen?
Yeah.
But they when they get back, nobody's there, and so he's kind of like, the fuck. And then she's like, you know what? I think I'm a go. Like she
Yeah.
immediately just like was like, I'm out of here.
Because she was
Um,
like, I didn't see her face. I
yeah,
didn't want to
and
see her face.
mhm. And we
Which
have
I'm like, bitch, same. I could have
for
lived
real
forever without having seen her face.
because it's spooky, and
Yeah,
this is
even my little
whenever
chalkware doll is just sitting here and it's staring at me and
kind of
it's
freaking you
starting to
out.
creep me out.
Um,
I'm gonna put her behind the
I'll cover her up.
sorry.
She's gonna get mad.
Oh, well, I'm just putting her behind here. I'll let her face your friends over there.
My bag's so bad. Okay. And so we have him. This is when he goes to the club meeting.
Yes. So I didn't know if it was like all in the same day.
I th- I had a bit because we were cutting and kind of groundhog daying it and kind of jumping back to the reset. I also had a bit of a hard time kind of keeping up with where we were and
In
where everybody's stories were lining up with each other, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
I
Yeah.
mean, they did a good job of making like everything overlap, but
Oh
like
yeah, for
as
sure.
far as like the time of day and like had a whole day passed, it's a little muddled.
I see. This is what I feel like. Did this happen over a course of like a
3
day or
days
2 days,
or
3 days? Like I don't know either. But I
yeah.
think definitely at least because she did go because Maria had to go do work or whatever. So that we know. So we okay. So real quick, we know that it was the first day, and then they woke up and it was the next day, and then there's a mannequin, and I'm pretty sure that's the same day Maria went to go to work. So then she said she was going to stay the night, or I'm going to see you tomorrow. So then that's another day. So it's got to be at least like 3 days. Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm
Oh,
Um.
and whenever he closed the door after homegirl left, you can see Helen sitting at the piano again.
It was
Um
very fast. It was
yeah.
quick.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they do
A lot
show
of
Helen quite frequently.
on a lot of those type of moments where it's like
Yeah.
you blink and you miss it.
Exactly.
I grab some.
But yeah, so he goes to the Friends of Gardening meeting and they are asking like, have you seen her? And he's like, well, what? Like they're all just kind of going on and they're like putting pieces together that feel vaguely familiar, like from what he's read in the book and what
Yeah.
he's heard around town, but like none of it is quite clicking yet.
Well, and
And
because they're also not even like they're not really filling him in. They're just having their own conversation,
yeah,
right? Oh,
and
he's just kind of like
he's just a
keep
bystander. And
trying
they're
to keep
like,
up.
yeah, they're not like trying to be like, okay, here's what you missed, new guy. They're just like, well, this is what's been happening.
Yeah.
And they go on about it. And one of the people says it's starting to feel like 1980 again, but the head guy is like, it's not that bad yet.
I love how, I love how I love how, because me as a viewer, as soon as he said that, I was like, you didn't even look like you were old enough to be alive
I
back
know.
then. And then
He was like,
you weren't
you
even,
weren't there. Yeah.
yeah.
No,
I
I thought the
love,
same thing. I was like, girl, I was like, damn, what's her skincare routine? I fucking need it.
but I love that, like, he even called it out because it grounded the movie for me even more. I was like, yeah, that's like, okay, cool. Anyways, but just
Yeah. No,
the
I
little
agree.
thing in the writing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we learned that Ashley unalived herself and
Yeah.
and and then I was like, okay, so that is who we saw in the library for sure. But
Which,
then I was like, was she a ghost?
no, yeah, for sure. And that's so that kind of like muddled it for me too. But also, I
But I
don't even
think
think
she
did he.
completed that night.
Yeah, I don't think that he ever even realized. Or I guess he did, right? Yeah, because they talk about her later whenever she had cracked the code to the grid. Never mind. But I think at this point too, I don't think he's even connected that like the girl that he saw at the library is the girl who killed herself.
Yeah.
You know what I
No,
mean?
I
Yeah.
don't think he has connected that either.
Yeah.
Because again, he's like just sitting there while people are throwing all these ideas around and he has no clue what's really going on.
Hmm.
Um, and then they go on to say everyone here has been affected by her in some way. And she stays with you once she's in. Basically, like, it doesn't matter if they would have left. Like,
Hmm.
she would have, she sunk her teeth into you, and now she's an attachment.
Hmm.
Um, and then finally, this is when Chuck is like, "Who the fuck are you talking about?"
Yeah. Because all they keep mentioning too, as well as like her, she, like there's
He,
no
her.
actual name or anything like that kind of given right now.
We got our
But
pronouns down
I really do.
solid.
And we now get some exposition because I believe the younger girl or one of them or the older dude starts explaining that Helen Foster killed herself and she used to live at 825 Forest Road.
Yeah.
And and at the same time, like they're explaining things, Larry is like seeing something and he gets up and I love how like as they're explaining and they know that like shit be going down in this town, they're just like not like Larry's just walking off like in a trance.
Yeah.
And nobody's like, Larry, what's going
Larry,
on?
what are you doing? Yeah, they're so
Yeah.
absorbed in their own conversation. But thankfully, Head Honcho Man does notice that
Yeah.
Larry gets up and they share a knowing look again. And then they decide to end the meeting.
Mhm.
And we also get mentioned that like no one can find 825 Forest Road
Yeah.
anymore. And so, but yeah, they end up closing the meeting down early and he says you have to keep an eye out for the signs, and like basically she gives us signs to shut down the meetings early sometimes, and this was one of those times. And he looks into the church pews because I guess they met at the
Mhm.
church,
Yeah.
and he sees her sitting there
Just in the pew facing their
and
direction. Yeah.
her neck starts turning and
Mhm.
cracking all the while. It was very creepy. Um, and yeah, it was like, woo.
Yeah, it was pretty creepy. And he's just kind of like, okay. And then we get chapter 2 on the black screen, and it's Isabel's chapter.
Yep. Now
And
we're with Isabelle.
this is where we immediately get to find out that we are getting everybody's perspective of the same kind of events that are unfolding, because we are back at when she comes in, um uh from the beginning when Bonnie was, introducing them to the new house.
Yes. And
Mm.
so she walks in. She, like, we kind of start with her going art
Mhm.
and him, like, Maria being like, hey, that's what she got a scholarship for. Stupid.
Mhm.
And um then Isabel goes up and she's exploring the house and she's exploring one of the rooms, turning on the light, but it's not like working. And then it
Mhm.
flickers on. And in the corner of the room, we see Helen,
Yeah. And this
but her
happens.
face is kind of shrouded.
No, yeah, there's still, it's not like full on as we get later on in the movie. So like immediately she's already having things, happening around her, even though she's not necessarily aware. And I like how it was also tied into the light because it's foreshadowing like later on as well
Yeah.
when they have the
Like
scene.
what will be in her closet.
And so yeah, and she's then we cut to her recording or talking. We hear her talking, and then Chuck walks into the room, and we find out that like she basically journals, but through voice memos, like recording her voice.
Yeah.
And it,
Because
mhm,
her therapist told her, because she
mhm,
doesn't have a therapist out there yet.
yeah.
And he told her that would probably be the best option.
And so we get kind of a busy Chuck moment. They're kind of talking about their life situation. Kind of, you can tell he's got remorse and guilt over um, not being close because he, I guess, essentially left her with their mom pretty young, when he moved out, and then just like didn't really talk to her. So we're the point. I think this is where we get mentioned that she's like, your wife didn't even know you had a sister. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
um, and and also like dealing, how we're understanding how she's dealing with the tragic death of their mom, and I guess she's blaming herself for that.
For having been the driver in the car
Hmm.
accident. And
Hmm.
she mentions that she's having dreams of her mother, which, if you think back to the Friends of Gardening meeting, one of them was like, the dreams are the worst.
Hmm.
And so it was like, ooh, shit, she's got the dreams.
Yeah.
Um, and then he's looking through her pictures that she has drawn over the years.
Hmm.
And he picks up one that looks exactly like the house that they just bought, but she drew it like 3 years prior.
Hmm.
And it was really like, whoa, look at
Like,
what?
yeah,
And
like
then,
we got some clairvoyance coming on in here.
yeah. And then
Hmm.
he picks up another photo, which was a kind of a very creepy photo as well, of her at the end of a hallway with a hand on her shoulder.
Hmm.
And that picture will come back into play.
It will. So also, I wonder how that ties into that all. Like, was she psychic?
Yeah.
Like,
It kind of reminded me of Lake Mungo
hmm.
at the end, and like with her
Oh yeah,
like for some reason I got Lake Mungo vibes. But with
layers.
because like yeah, in Lake Mungo the girl like kind of knew she was going to die.
And that's why she had like recorded everything or whatever.
Yeah, so it kind of
Um,
reminded me of Lake Mungo.
it, um, it it gave I don't know what it gave, but I like it. And
Yeah.
then we are in. This is her having a nightmare, I believe, into the night, and then it transitions into the next day. Um.
And they were also reminiscing on times with mom, sorry, and about the
mm,
dishes being stacked up.
Oh yeah, that's important.
And like it's saying they're not going to put away themselves kind of thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, because that comes into play in Maria's chapter. um and he kind of tells her like, oh, by the way, like make sure you help put away some dishes and stuff.
Hmm.
um but yeah, then she has another dream about mom, and she wakes up to them
They're about
saying, hey, look outside.
yeah, and the mannequin's outside again.
Yeah, so we're back with Martha being outside. We
Hmm.
have Isabelle coming to the door. She sees some scratches on her door.
Hmm.
And then she is like yet again saying, well, it wasn't me.
Yeah.
um and then we kind of get more of her dialogue between Maria and Isabelle
Hmm.
as she then goes down outside, and then Chuck is like, what the fuck, Isabelle? And she's like, boy, it wasn't me.
Yeah. And they're maybe they think she's going through a hard time, or I don't know why they would think she would do that, but like she never like they were just having a heart to heart the night before. Like, it doesn't even seem likely that she would do something like that.
Yeah.
But they are now. That's whenever she's outside, and then I think she comes back inside and she starts to play the piano, right?
Yeah. And it's
Mm-hmm.
later at night because he's coming home from the
Mm-hmm.
meeting, and Isabel's playing the piano and asking where he's been. And she kind of starts opening up to him, saying it's been weird around here. And then this is where she mentions, oh, Ashley, this girl at my school, killed herself recently.
Mm-hmm.
um and then she brings up this guy named Luke and says like he mentioned about the town and its effects on people. And she kind of then goes on to admit that she's struggling with her mental health.
Mm-hmm. And so this after Larry had already told Chuck that he needed to be careful if she was like, being depressed or not, because it would afflict her more.
Yeah.
So he's already got that on his mind. And they're talking more about the mom and stuff. And then it's just a lot of kind of just character depth and a moment between them as siblings. I think they start to kind of understand them each other a little bit right now.
Oh,
But
really? I feel like he was not getting where she was at all.
well, I feel like it was a step in them like actually having conversations
Oh,
because I feel
yeah.
like before like they'd obviously just like didn't like have any type of relationship at all, especially when she was just kind of like, "You left us, like you left me." Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, I get what you mean though. Yeah, like I think, and especially too, he's kind of a bit, um, even with his conversations with Maria when she's kind of trying to like explain to him about her, bipolar and how like the taking meds isn't like just easy for her, and he's just kind of like,
Yeah, like, "You had pills that could fix it all," and it's like,
mhm,
they don't fix everything.
yeah, and his
They
take on
fix a
therapy.
lot of things, but yeah. Yeah, and his take
Mhm,
on therapy is not good. But yes, so and this is, I guess, where we get, like, she's like, "When your wife didn't even know you had a sister,"
mm,
kinda thing. But then next thing we know is it's the next day and Luke is knocking on the door.
mhm. And Chuck answered and he's like, "Oh, hello." And Luke is like, "Where can I talk to, Isabel?" And then Isabel's like, "Oh, it's my friend Luke." And then he's gonna go upstairs, and then that's whenever it's kind of like an awkwardish moment for I guess for Chuck because he just kind of doesn't know how to almost parent. But then I'm just kind of like, you don't need to
He's
parent
like,
her.
"Yeah,
She's like,
leave the door leave the door."
yeah.
And then he kinda trails off.
But they go up and they start to talk about Helen Foster, I believe.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, and because he comes over and he basically asks if she's seen something.
Mhm.
And she's like, "Well, what do you mean?" And he goes into like the whole lore of the city
Mhm.
or the town, and we learn about the stack of books with some guy in the library could hang himself.
Mhm.
Um, and then this is where we learn that Helen Foster had a daughter who was bullied in school and no one would ever do anything about it. And it basically ended up driving her to suicide. And then that enraged Helen Foster, obviously.
Mhm.
And also, just broke her. And so she ends up killing the bully and the bully's parents, the Clark family, and
Yeah.
then turns the weapon on herself.
And shoots herself.
Yeah.
Um, and then
That they
she was
still can't find the house where any of this happened.
because the city basically kind of erased it. They got rid of, old maps. They shrunk down. Well, we find out they shrunk down the border of the town, and we end up finding out that these documents that are sealed were supposed to be unsealed at a certain point, but which was 1980, which we kind of had a little bit of foreshadowing from that earlier. But we find out that whatever happened in that council meeting it stopped them from unsealing the documents, and also like nobody ever heard from those council people ever again. Like they just
Yeah.
like went missing. And
Millie woke
so
up.
oh hi, my little baby. She's just like, "What's up, Papa?"
Aw. She's like, "What are you doing?"
Mm-hmm.
She's just taking a bath. And then she said, "I'm on camera." And then she said,
Yeah,
"I don't care."
yeah.
But yeah, they find out that the 1980 town council meeting is when everything was supposed to be unseal the documents. But they said that the doors were locked and like everyone could see into the building, and it was just the town council people with one lone woman sitting in the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then she goes on to describe her dreams. I think she is talking back to a tape recorder at this point, and she dreamt that her mother was in the kitchen and started screaming the
Mm-hmm.
same scream as when she died, basically.
Yeah,
Um, but then we go to the art gallery.
yeah. We're at the art gallery because Maria takes her, um, and Maria's trying to create like a bonding moment for them because we find out as they're having their discussions that um because Isabel was like, did Chuck kind of put you up to this? And Maria was like, no, actually, like, this was my idea. Um and um they start to discuss how, or Maria starts to bring up how she kind of gets and understands where Isabel is coming from and how her brother doesn't really necessarily get her because what she's going through kind of reminds Maria what she went through something years prior. And also that this is the part where she reveals to Isabel that she has bipolar disorder.
Yes.
And that, he just doesn't understand or get like their struggles. And I think that she's as a sister-in-law, because she says she has a sister, but she doesn't really get to see her that often and they're distant, that she's probably trying to like, create a bond for this and like, maybe create something here where she's lacking in her other relationship.
Yeah. And
So
the whole time I felt so sorry for this poor bartender because they like got their sparkling water and then just stood there and had this like super deep conversation. And I was like, the poor bartender. Or maybe she was the bartender was enjoying it and was like,
she's going to spill that tea later on with her friends.
yeah, she's going to be like, you'll never guess what I heard, bitches.
Yeah.
But yeah, that part just kind of cracked me up. But yeah, she talks about how Chuck just doesn't get it. And this is where I started to like her character a bit more. I even wrote that in my notes. And
Maria, not so bad after all.
Yeah. I said, now I like her character a bit more. She's aight. And then while they're sitting there in the middle of their conversation, we hear some glass shatter and a woman shriek. And we look over to see that there's something at the painting she was examining earlier that was not there before, which she had mentioned in their conversation between the two of them, just some light dialogue. It was like, that's what I love about art is like, you can just stare at it until you find something entirely new. And that's apparently the way Chuck feels about music as well. It's like you can listen to it over and over again, and then you'll find a whole new meaning to it. And so unfortunately, the new thing in this painting was Helen.
Yeah.
Because there's this like black smudge of a woman on the like end of this porch. It kind of looked like a porch to me.
Yeah.
And the glass was shattered. And
like a plantation house, like old style porch. Yeah.
With like a big wraparound kind of porch. And everyone is being ushered out of the building and they're like, time to go. And they cover the painting. And then this is where we're with her in bed now. They make it home. She goes upstairs. She is in bed. And I thought it was the hallway light at first that clicks on. But it's the closet because she turns it off. And then she gets back in bed. It turns back on. And then on the second time, you can see the clothes in the closet. And I was like, oh shit, that's a closet. I was like, that's even scarier.
Very scary.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, somebody's getting up and getting some water. And
yeah, no. Because it doesn't, like you said, like that could be explained, but this is like, there shouldn't be anybody in there.
No, there shouldn't. And it turns on, she goes back to bed like we talked about earlier, and it turns on yet again. But she is freaked out this time because on the second time when it turned on, she took the light bulb out.
Yeah.
And she looks at the door with the light on, and you just see hands and then a head, like birth.
Yeah, it's really scary. It's freaky. I love how the hands were coming around the door because that's always like chilling. And as that's happening, then she like,
and it's such a classic like horror / just not even horror, but like trope in general with people is like the monster in the closet or under the bed.
And not showing it all the way necessarily, and then just like really edging the audience.
Yeah.
And she we wake up and she's like, oh, and so it was a nightmare. But then was it? Because she looks over at the nightstand and the light bulb is there where it was, where she left it.
Still there.
So half of me was like, I feel like what it was is it the first two times the light was doing that, but then like she did fall asleep, and then like still like somehow demonically or witchily or ghostly, like the ghost was still fucking with her and like planted that nightmare in her.
Yeah.
Like I still think it was a nightmare. But she ends up talking to Luke, I think the next day, right?
Yeah,
Because
and
she wants
she's
to
saying
find
that
Forest
she wants
Road.
to find Forest Road.
Mhm.
Yeah, and he basically lets her in that, like, Ashley might have found Forest Road, and that's why she's not around anymore.
Mhm. So he's like, tread lightly, like be careful because you're getting into some like really dark shit.
Yeah, be careful what you
Mhm.
wish for.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden she gets a call from Chuck, and he's saying that Maria had a little scare, basically,
Mhm.
and he needs her to come home right away, so that way she can keep an eye on Maria while he goes to do something.
Mhm.
But so she gets home, and Chuck is basically like, pack your bags,
Mhm.
and she's like, what? Okay. But she
Yeah.
goes upstairs, starts packing her bags, and then Luke comes over. And this whole time I was like, is Luke a ghost? I just
Oh,
wanted
right?
everyone to be a ghost because he kept showing up at like the most weird times. And I was like, Luke's dead.
Kind
But
of
he's,
conveniently weird times. Yeah.
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 And
Um,
because like this point, whenever he walks up into her bedroom, it was like low key out of nowhere. But I guess he was just worried about her.
mhm.
Um, and then Then he starts going on about how he met her mom.
Yeah, because he sees the picture and from the photo frame, and he's like, "Oh, I met your mom, by the way. She's really nice. She let me out." And then she's like, "Wait, what the fuck?" And he's like, "Yeah." She opened the door and she was like, "Hi, I'm Isabel's mom," and she let me up and she said she would check on you later. And she's like, "Bruh, my mom is unalive." And he's like, "You're fucking with me." And she's like, "You're fucking with me." And he's like, "You're fucking with me." And then they, and then he's like, I gotta get out of here."
Yeah, my note is Luke just dips.
Literally,
Um, and then we get
because
a sing-songy voice going, Isabelle. Sorry,
mhm.
what were you gonna say, Bill?
I believe they did hear like one glass shatter, right? They
Yeah,
did
they
hear
heard some
that, yeah.
glass shatter.
But they totally are just like whatever. And then,
Yeah,
but
and he
then
was
he's like,
like,
"I'm
"Nope,
dipping."
I
Yeah,
gotta blast."
and
Um,
she goes down, you're right, and then we have the Isabel shit going on, and then Maria's like, "Don't go in there,"
because
and
we hear Isabelle, it's mommy with like a
mhm.
distorted voice,
Why
and
did that voice sound like a chain smoking woman from like somewhere who wears leopard, like who's like your father,
your
like
father,
I don't know,
kind of like Fran from The Nanny,
almost but
but
like
creepy,
but
not as
sweet,
shrill.
and
Or like
this was
Fran's
very creepy
mom.
though. Uh-huh. And this was very creepy because she's like in the kitchen and she looks and then she's like peeking and then she sees a woman there, and then as she's like at the door, like it starts getting closer and closer into it, like comes around the door and it's like, "Grah!"
Yeah, because we
Uh-huh.
hear her say, these dishes won't put themselves away. And
Mhm.
then she's like, don't you want to see what you did to me?
Mhm.
And then screams at her. And they
Then
try
they
to get
run
out the
upstairs.
front door, but they
Oh, yeah.
can't get out. And so they run into opposite rooms. Maria runs into her own room, and then Isabel runs into her room. And we just hear Maria's like blood curdling screams from Isabel's room. And then we get chapter 3, Maria.
Yeah. Maria. Favorite chapter. And we're back with Bonnie talking to the realtor. And I like how in this part too, like we get like I love how it's everybody's different perspective because it's like the same, but but then we hear like there's just like side little dialogue change, like not changes, but additions, that we didn't kind of hear from before.
Yeah.
And like how then uh we're talking about pizza, right? We're in the
Yeah. They're
car.
in the car.
Yes.
And because they've just gone to the library for Chuck to pick up the books, and she
Mhm.
was on the phone with Brad or someone,
Ron. Ron.
Ron.
Her
Um,
colleague or something. Yeah.
yeah, who was like telling her, like, we need the floral samples and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And this is where we get the yours was an illness easily corrected by medicine, because she was like, I kind of relate to her, and he was like, how is it the same? And then he said that, and I was like, boy, you better shut your mouth right now. And this is where we learn his views on therapy, that he thinks it's a scam. And then they make it back home, and they're on the phone about pizza, and Isabelle just says okay and hangs up the phone. But then they're back home, she's packing her bags, and she takes her medicine, as we get like with her little timer watch beep beep. And then she is going and leaving, and someone's standing in the doorway reflection.
Little creepy moments like that keep popping throughout the movie. And as she gets in the car, I think we also got a moment where she was talking to her sister on the phone, right? A little before that moment. And the sister was like, he's asking too much of you. Like, this is a lot. You're a city girl. And she's like, no, it's okay. Like, this is fine. Like, this is what we're doing. Like, it's okay. But yes, you're right. Then we're back with the lady in the mirror. And then I have the town history as my next note that I could.
So he is like, oh, did you know that this house used to be 15 Rose Lane?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And so she's not quite in the car yet. But he's like, did you know this house used to be 15 Rose Lane? They changed all the names of the streets and stuff. And this is where she walks into the kitchen, and all the dishes are stacked up, and there's a little note in the top cup that says they won't put themselves away. And then she like mentions like, hey, can you tell Isabelle to like, this isn't a college dorm room. Can you ask her to put her stuff away after she's done using it? And then, which I would have been like, what the fuck is this? The moment I saw it.
To show someone and be like, who did that?
Yeah. I would have been like, this is fucking weird. But that's just me. And then she's in the car now, and we're getting news coverage of Ashley's death and the town history kind of like
splashed in there.
Yeah. And we see Helen standing in the driveway as she backs out.
Another little quick scary moment. And Ron, as she's back out, had called her, and she's like, we learned that they're basically about 2 hours away from the city. So it's like me away from you, or me away from Austin. And then we end up having her, after she comes back, I believe she's doing her vlog.
Yeah, and she's doing her little live stream.
And this is whenever we get the mannequin moving its hands in the backgrounds, and her people are watching this live, right? So her sister starts calling her Allie, and she's like, oh, I don't know what she'd be calling me if she's watching this. And then to me, I'm thinking like, wouldn't you think that if someone it's probably an emergency, but anyways, because she knows like how important, and if she's watching, she knows that she's live, but she's ignoring these calls, right? And then I think Claire or someone else starts to like call her or something. Someone else. She mentions another name, I think.
Yeah, I think it was Claire.
Something like that.
But before this, we also see. So Martha moves towards the corner window. And she's like staring at Martha, and then her watch goes off for her medicine, but she doesn't take it.
That's right.
And then Martha's hand starts moving.
All that shit starts happening.
Yeah. And she like looks over as she's like walking, because we see because she picks up she's like, sister, if you're calling about the bridesmaid dresses, like they're in this room over here and they're fine. And so she's like picking up the laptop, walking with it. But we see Martha has like lifted her hands and then like, looks.
That's a whole head tilt. And everybody's seeing that on live stream. And she goes back into the room, sits down with the thing, and doesn't realize that Martha's now completely like missing from the room.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take long though, because as she's like looking around the room, because she's trying to show them something, she ends up
because she gets a message saying, get out of the house now.
Oh yeah. she's like, that's weird. And then she realizes that Martha's not there. And so she jumps up and she starts running, just freaking out. And then she goes to like down the hallway, and that's where we see that Martha's like in their bedroom or in Isabel's room. And she like starts turning her head, and then she starts coming closer to her. And then Isabelle runs out, and then like I think that's whenever
we
it
flash
cuts
to
away from that
her,
to Isabelle.
to them burning her.
Oh yeah, because I forgot too. My bad. This was also a different perspective part where earlier, whenever Luke and Isabelle were talking, she came in and was like, "Hey, were you in my studio?" And then she's like, "Never
Yeah.
mind." And then we get the same moment, and it's because of all of this that was happening. And yes, yeah, we get that she starts to burn the mannequin because obviously, who wouldn't?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then Suki's here.
Hi, Suki.
But then they're basically saying they're gonna have to like Maria freaks out, and
Mhm.
Chuck is like, we're gonna have trouble selling the house.
Mhm.
And he's like, are you taking your pills? And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's okay. And then she's like, 1,000 people saw it. And
Yeah.
then this is where we get Isabelle coming in, and he's like about to leave because he just called her saying like, hey, get back here for
Mhm.
Maria. And he's about to leave, and she goes, are you looking for Helen Foster's house? And
I love how Maria's like, "Who the fuck is
who
Helen
the fuck is
Foster?"
Helen Foster? Yeah. She's like, who's that?
Who's that
Like, bitch, you
bitch?
cheating?
Yeah.
That's what I
Um,
would have been like.
no, for real, right? But then all of that shit's happening, and then
She
we
finds
get
all the dishes stacked up again with a note saying, hello, Maria.
Mhm. Oh yeah, that's right. And then is this when shit starts going down again?
Yeah, because someone walks
Yeah.
past the door behind her, and then the glass starts shattering. So Maria automatically hides because she's like, what the fuck is
Mm.
happening?
Oh,
And
and this is where I also was like, because there was so much glass shattering, and it only like we only heard like one glass shatter earlier, but I'm like,
from Isabel's.
I was
Yeah.
like, how did they not hear all of this going on? I mean, also she's like it's her mom's ghost talking to Maria too, like, Maria, I know you're there.
Yeah, because she goes, I know you're there, Maria.
Mhm.
And then that's when we see Isabelle come down the stairs, and we hear Luke go, got a
I'm out of here.
blast.
Yeah.
And Maria, like Maria's still hiding there, but she like gets up behind the door, and Isabelle is like walking around the corner, and she pops out and like tries to stop her.
Mhm.
But Isabelle just like, let go of me, and just keeps walking in there. And
Then we cut to them running upstairs after the whole scare
yeah,
and
she goes
the whole
to
splitting.
her own room. Yeah. And this is where we get the really good creature design,
Mhm.
ghost design, because the way that its little head just pops out from around the corner, and it's like grinning.
And then it was like right up to Maria.
Yeah,
And
like
then
crawling. Ugh.
and we heard earlier in Isabel's perspective, like blood curdling screams from Maria, but then and then it stops. And then here we have Maria then just coming into Isabel's room, and she's like, "Hey, are you okay? Are you hurt?" And then Isabel's like, "Why the fuck are you bleeding? Like, look at your face." And then we cut to the mirror, and Maria's like pale white as a ghost, and
Yeah, I
her
was
nose
like,
is
she
bleeding.
low-key looks dead.
Mm-hmm. And her nose is bleeding, and then we cut to chapter 4, Forest Road.
Chapter 4, Forest Road. And we've got Chuck with Maria.
Which I'm assuming it's like the next day, and she obviously is like kind of she's like catatonic from what it you know.
Everything that happened. Yeah.
Mhm. And it's like
And
me after like a stressful day at work.
yeah, just like, I need to lay down.
Whatever.
But yeah, then the doorbell rings. So,
And it's
and
funny.
well, first off,
No, wait,
it's
it's Luke.
Luke.
My bad. Yeah.
Yeah, Luke comes with a map of the power grid, and he says he found Forest Road, basically.
Mhm.
And then the doorbell rings again.
And it's Bonnie.
It's Bonnie. And she's like, did you forget?
Bonnie has a lot of sass.
She does.
Bonnie has a lot of sass, yeah.
She was like, excuse me, bitch. You agreed to do this.
Told you a week ago that we would be doing this. And
which she did. We heard her mention it on the phone. So I guess a week has passed in all this.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That's a good, hey, thank you, Stephen, for giving us an indicator there. But that we didn't know we had. Or I didn't, my bad. And so I love how she's also like, look, like if you just give me 30 minutes, like I will lose money if I have to reschedule this. So just like, let us do this. But then Maria pops out of nowhere and she's like, honey, everybody knows I'm better on camera. I can handle this. You go find Forest Road. And already I'm like, this bitch is possessed.
Yeah, I was like, sus. Because she didn't know. I've never felt better.
And then like she knew what they were talking about. She knew where he was going. Like she wasn't even present during the conversations.
Yeah. Because she didn't know who Helen Foster was.
She didn't know about any of that stuff.
Yeah. And so I was like, don't trust this. No. And then fucking Isabel's like, Luke, stay with Maria until we get back, basically, because I'm going to go with Chuck. And Luke, I'm surprised he stayed. But because I would have been like, nope, sorry. I think I'm out.
Same. Especially because whenever he's like, oh, I thought you were going to ask me to go with you. But I'm like, how is this any better?
Yeah, this looks kind of sus too. So I don't know. And then especially once Maria is only just watching Luke.
I would have been like, I'm going to go to the restroom, but like walked out the back door.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, because that's happening. She's giving him death stares at the same time. Isabelle and Chuck are looking and finding, which it's like, it's like, as I'm watching, it's like literally like, all they had to do was just, it was right there. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. They just needed to drive a little ways.
Yeah. And they find it pretty easily. They find the house. But also right before this is happening with Ed, they start to ask Maria questions, and she's like really cryptic, and she's like talking about her daughter, which was
and at first she's like, my name is Maria, and then they're like last name, and then she goes, my name is Maria. And it's like already you can tell she's like a little broken record. Yeah. Or something.
And it's Helen, obviously, because she starts to then talk about like her daughter Mary and how she was, bullied and that whole story. And I love how they're like, this is weird. Like, and she's like, oh, wait, what was I saying? And she's like, let me start from the beginning. After the crying came the blood.
Yeah. And I was like, oh.
It was so funny to me.
And then we also, once they arrive to the house, they're basically like, what are we going to do about the house once we find it? And Chuck is like, we're going to burn it down. And I was like, I feel like that's low-key a like rash conclusion on his part. Cause like he just moved in.
And he's going to complete arson on this like house in the neighborhood that like the town has apparently been like dealing with for 50 years. And you don't think anybody was just like, let's just burn it down. Like there might be a reason we don't burn. Like what if it makes it worse? Like what if
And then I don't know. It just, that part to me was like the only like thing that I was like, I feel like I have trouble believing that this is just the natural conclusion.
Yeah.
But, anyways, they go into the house and she is like, we get this voiceover of Maria talking over the montage of them exploring the house. And she says, after the crying came the blood. I began to notice drops of blood in the bathroom sink. And they actually they're walking up. They find the old dilapidated house. And he's like, she's gotten her revenge 100 times over. Like, it's time for this to end. And so they break in, and then we're getting her like saying, I had to let them know that what they were allowing to happen was an abomination. And she says she didn't want to hurt anything. And that voiceover is going while they explore the house. And she's talking about how the school promised to do something and never did. Basically everything that we already knew from her, like the whole reason she was pissed off.
Yeah.
And then someone walks behind Isabelle.
Someone walks behind Isabelle, little jump scare. And do you think that was Helen, even though she's in the body right now, or do you think?
I wonder if 825 Road was haunted by the Clarks because they lived there, and that if they were just like, we got killed for this, you're all getting killed for this too.
Yeah.
And they were haunting the house. I don't know, but it could have been Helen. I mean, she's a supernatural being. She easily could have been in two places at once.
Time, yeah. But we have also, as Chuck is going through the house, he finds this little floorboard thing where, people hide things in the floorboard, and he pulls it up, and it's a letter, and it's, basically addressing like what she said that she just said in an interview, like, I'm writing to you, the Clark family, like whatever, nothing's been done. It's unacceptable. And so that's going to change now. And as he then looks at the envelope, we see that it's, her address. But when he looks at and this is like, it's such a good moment when he looks at the two, like who it's to, it's 15 Rose Lane. So that's where we get the connection that he was living in the house that the bully lived in, where she committed murders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no.
No.
Helen lived in the Rose Lane house. 825 Lane was the Clark's house. Because it said Helen Foster up in the top left corner with the 15 Rose Lane underneath it. And then it said the Clarks were in the 825 house. So I believe she committed all the murders in the Clark house. That's why I was saying I think that it could be the Clarks haunting that house.
But
that's why Helen was so prominent in their house, is because she lived there.
Oh.
Okay,
yeah.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
Got it.
And so, because I wrote, they live in Helen's old house. 825 Forest Lane was the Clark's house.
And I literally have the opposite. I'm like, 15 Rose Lane is the bully's house, the Clark's house, and that 825 was Helen's house.
Yeah.
Because the whole time they're saying that they're looking for Helen's house.
Yeah, but I think they misunderstood. I think they
because they didn't have the information.
Yeah.
Nobody had the maps.
Because it was all rumor and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so they didn't even consider the possibility of there being a second house.
Mm-hmm.
But
all of this is happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we get basically Helen and Maria start like bleeding together, and then it just becomes Helen, and Bonnie and the cameraman are dead. Because you just see like one of their arms like flailing as Luke goes hiding.
She's so cute. She's so fluffy.
She is so fluffy. Yeah, he's a good girl. You gonna purr for the microphone? But yeah, and then they're playing the same piano tune from earlier. We hear the piano playing again, and then we get nope, get off there. Sorry, she tried to climb on the computer.
Here, okay. The piano's playing, and then like shit's going down in the interview house.
Yeah,
Rose Lane,
because Luke is hiding, but then all of a sudden her face just pops up right next to him.
Yeah.
And it screams. And then we're with Isabelle now, and she's apologizing.
And she's at the end of the hallway.
And then we see a hand start to creep onto her shoulder, and you're like, oh shit, that's her painting from earlier. And then, but thankfully Chuck doesn't abandon her like he did earlier in life. He kind of has a redemption arc here. He comes and he tries to grab her, and they get sucked into the room together, and the door shuts, and we just get empty shots of the house. We get shots of like Chuck and Maria's wedding pictures, her art. Isabelle always knew this would happen. She didn't know why, but she did.
Yeah.
It
It's
was their
giving
destiny.
clairvoyant. It was the destiny. It was meant to be. And yeah, and then that's the end of the movie. Roll credits.
Roll
Um,
credits.
Overall, I thought it was a really good ride, a really fun ride. I thought that um even the ending, like I saw some of the reviews where it was like the ending kind of like wasn't like it didn't wrap up well or something like that. But I thought it did. And I like that no it wasn't a happy ending. Like there wasn't really any resolution and
Yeah,
they all just
everyone
kind of
dies.
like died. That's literally was like everybody died. That's it.
Everybody dead.
Literally. And so yeah, it's just like could even like create a little limited series of like the aftermath of this. Like there's so much,
Yeah,
you know?
like how
Uh
the town, because obviously they didn't stop her, so
yeah. And what if this
there
also
could be a
escalates it
second
and
one.
pisses her off and she starts doing more shit?
Yeah.
'Cause, I don't know. But I thought, yeah, it was really good. I think I'll just get into the rating of it
Mhm.
for myself on my B rating. I think I'm going to give it a 4
Yeah.
because I think it was an hour and 42 minutes. So it wasn't like extremely long. And I thought the way that it was broken down in sections paced the movie pretty well,
Mhm.
even though we were getting the same stuff essentially, like event wise. It was different because the way he filmed it. And I also want to know like how did he even film that? Because like the way he edited it and pieced it all together was really good because we got all the same events,
Yeah,
but
and
just from everybody's different perspective. So I'm just like,
exactly.
how did he know? Like when he was filming it all, did he just like film it all and he just knew where he was going to place everything and then he cut it, or did he film the chapters specifically like that and then filmed a different chapter and then put it all together? Like, right? It sounds like
Yeah.
so difficult. It sounds like it would hurt my brain.
No, yeah, I agree. Some of the reviews I read were like, "The editing of this film was terrible." And I
And
was
I'm like,
like, "I
no.
disagree. I thought it was really well."
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
And I think maybe even in places where we felt like even how we were like, wait, what days did pass? But no, we got a good little indicator with at least Bonnie being like, no, I mentioned that a week ago. So at least
yeah.
we know everything's happening and transpiring within that time frame. And going back to just like even just knowing maybe we are a little biased. I don't know. We know who made it, who wrote it, but I also think that's really like amazing, like how we got from to that interview, whatever 2 years ago to here and seeing, like you said, it from the beginning, how it's a fully realized like motion picture.
Yeah.
And the story to me was really good. I liked how there were elements from other like horror movies, not other horror movies, but like horror tropes, essentially how you were talking about earlier. Like if we get the whole like town history lore type of movie, where it's like
Kind of like it.
we're burying a secret, but now we can't really keep it back. And then we get like the whole like I liked how the writing was really transparent with like her bipolar disorder and like how that added to Maria's character depth and
Mhm.
added a whole other element of like, well, now we're dealing with like someone who takes medication and then like someone who could be like it didn't really go in that field, but also where like you said where she decided not to take her medication, like then it
Yeah.
gives the audience a like, well, is what's happening to her real or not? Is she being like, just seeing this, or is it happening? And
Yeah.
also was that
But then it gets validated with the thousand of people who saw it on her views.
that very much, but then you get more into it, like what was the decision making, that was she influenced by like the darkness in the home and that's why she didn't like take the medication, or was
Yeah.
she trying to be like, maybe the medicine is fucking with me and I want to be more lucid because something is going on here, like
Yeah.
I don't know. And then uh the characters, I feel like everybody did a pretty good job like of portraying who they were, like even in writing, because like obviously, or to me, like I've not seen any of these actors and other things before, so I don't know like their level of like acting like credits, and stuff.
Yeah,
But
like your acting chops.
yeah, for sure. But I mean, it was like pretty decent to me for like people who were unknown, and then I thought that the only maybe two moments in the movie where I was kind of like, huh, where just like the moment where like you mentioned kind of the shotgun thing where he kind of didn't necessarily have a reaction where I feel like someone would have.
Worthwhile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or also like her in that moment where she was in the bed and then the light just goes on and she's just like, oh, all right, let's go back to bed.
Back to sleep we go.
But she probably was, if I'm that exhausted, maybe I don't care enough to be like, well, I don't question it. But I thought that it was well paced. I thought that we got information like even in the bits really good. I also liked like even the side characters were kind of interesting, like Larry as the neighbor, and even the bitch who was the librarian, but then she's also like in the group of the
Yeah.
garden club. And that could also like if they make a show, like could be its own like one whole episode, just like explaining all these characters and like how even they got brought in because everybody she like said everybody's been affected by this, so they all obviously
Yeah.
have their own encounter.
Yeah. I
So,
want to know what Helen's done to each of them.
yeah, and I thought that it all blended itself pretty well. I thought that it got to a point where it was like a little cerebral, but it wasn't so much so
Mhm.
that it was like going over my head. It was easy to keep up with, but it was still giving us plot and story. And I thought, like you said, the creature and like, or is that a creature? The ghost design, the whatever,
Yeah.
the set effects on that was really well done. And even though we did see like the faces and stuff at certain points, it was all very like, and that maybe, like you said, from his experience with um s- hi- oh
Found footage.
found footage, because it is very like almost cut like that in the
Yeah.
moments whenever we have the scary moments to where it blurs it so we aren't getting a full just like, well, there they are in most cases.
Yeah. They
And so
held like her actual true full face until chapter 3 with
yeah,
Maria at the
it
end.
it helps to add to the scare because you're not getting it full on. It's just like in bits and pieces, and it really also adds to like the terror going on in the character because they're like freaking out, right? And I enjoyed like, I don't know, I feel like there was a lot of really good elements in this movie, and I think that I'm excited to see what else he's going to come up with, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anything. Like it's just really promising work from someone who only has like the rest of their life to create even more cool, like scary things for us to see.
Yeah.
Like I would almost
Definitely.
even really like I would really be rooting for him to even like just try like a whole different genre of horror. Like I want to see what he does with like a slasher film or like a,
Yeah.
I don't know, like it's just something different. Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because they are like, it's still fixated around a house, um,
Paranormal,
paranormal
the
events. Yeah.
mannequins, is
Very
kind of
similar.
reminiscent.
Yeah.
But and
But
that's where we get
also
into the
entirely
elite.
different.
No, yeah.
Yeah, it's just you could tell that it was a Cognetti film,
Hmm.
with those little key pieces woven in.
Hmm.
Um,
Especially the piano, like you mentioned earlier too.
yeah.
It's a whole different tune from like the other tune from his other movies in Hell House, but like still kind of an almost like it leaves its little marker there.
Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely. Um, and even there was that one piano melody, but there was another piano moment where I think it was just more of the music that was happening, but it was like really low notes on the piano. And that kind of reminded me of Hell House as well.
Hmm.
But yeah, overall, I think I have to agree with basically everything you said. Um, I thought the film was, I was a little disheartened to like read all those bad reviews before watching it and was like, damn it, am I gonna hate this?
Especially because you want to root for something that someone made that you like thoroughly enjoy.
Yeah, and
Yeah, yeah.
appreciate other things. And so I was like, oh fuck. Like I hope this doesn't suck. And it didn't. I
Mhm.
don't know what those people were talking about. Maybe they know more about film than we do, but to me, I enjoyed it. It scared me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like when a film makes me afterwards kind of look over my shoulder, it's done its job.
Yeah.
And it did. And so it made me unsettled to the point where like I literally almost called Andrew at work so I could go pee. And then I was like, no, that's silly. So I didn't. But like, I don't know. I don't understand what those people had issue with, because I thought from start to finish it was well edited, it was well shot, like, and for it being like he paid like tribute to his found footage origins with like her live streams and stuff and the glitchy camera, but like it was a freaking awesome like full length feature film, and I thought it was really good. So I'm gonna sit with you around a 4 as well.
Yeah.
Talking about it makes me want to give it more, just because like I really appreciate everything that like did go into it. But I like before we talked about it, I was sitting at a 3.54. And then now I appreciate it more having spoken about it. So I'll stick around a 4.
Well, that, and it also just goes to show you that, like, I mean, the like his ambition and like the amount of movie that he can make, because I'm like, I mean, I don't know, I might be speaking out of my butt, but like I don't think he has like a lot of like, major studio like backing up into it. You know what I mean? So this all really comes from like heart and soul and passion and just like really like wanting to make good horror movies.
Yeah.
So it's just really cool to like, we were literally just being like the other day joking, like we should make a horror movie. But I'm like, dude, we should make a horror movie.
Yeah.
We should make a horror movie. Like, I mean, I'm not saying we're gonna make one tomorrow, but I mean, like, imagine what we could do if we like in 10 years. I don't know. That'd be cool.
Collaborate.
Yeah, I don't know.
Figure something out. But yeah.
But I mean, anyways, that's just awesome. So 4 from me, 4 from you, right? So
solid 4 booze for 825 Forest Road, Stephen Cognetti's newest film. And then we get to look forward to Hell House Lineage.
It's coming out this year in October, I believe.
Yeah. And I believe it should be in theaters, is what I read somewhere, unless it was fake news. It could have been.
But either or, we'll watch it wherever it's at.
I'm excited for it because we love the Hell House universe.
And like always, we're being recorded and brought to you guys by the lovely Rogue Media Network Studios.
That's right.
Yeah, they have our podcast and so many other podcasts, and you can find them all at their website at roguemedianetwork.com.
That's right. And you can also listen to us or them on all your favorite podcasting platforms, but the biggest two would be
Apple
and also Spotify. But wherever you do listen, don't forget to
rate, review, like, and subscribe.
That's right, because that's the only way we can get ahead in this world. And then if you want to let us know your thoughts on this film, if you've watched it yet, if you're running to go watch it.
As you should.
It's on Shudder. And then I know Shudder does some things through like AMC as well, right? On like Prime or something.
So it might be there too.
Yeah, so you can maybe watch it there if you don't have a Shudder account. But if you don't have a Shudder account, you should have a Shudder account, because there's phenomenal films on there. Last week's The Rule of Jenny Penn is a Shudder film. I believe was a Shudder film.
It was. It's original.
Yeah, and then this was a Shudder original as well, by Stephen Cognetti. And so, yeah, you should definitely check it out and then let us know your thoughts. And if you want to let us know your thoughts, you can do so all in one central place, and that's our Instagram, and that is at
Boobaes podcast, and that's at BOOBAES podcast because we're your boobaes, not your boobabes.
Exactly.
I was trying to see if I could find it. Sorry. Okay. I was trying to see if like people could also rent it from Amazon Prime. But it doesn't say that there's renting. But if you do click on it, there is a start your free trial to Shudder. So you can start a free trial and actually watch this and see if you like it or not. And then, see from there if you want to stick with Shudder. So,
which you should, because there's so much to explore.
You can watch it for free.
Yeah.
There you go. But, all in all, that still helps our friend and Mr. Stephen Condetti to, more viewers. That's awesome. People watching his film. So hopefully y'all listening, go take advantage of that and watch so many free movies apparently for probably 3 days or 7 days. I don't know.
7, I think.
Yeah. So hopefully you don't cancel. You actually subscribe, but I can't control what you do. But what I can tell you is let you know that's a deal. That's a steal right there.
That is a steal. That you get to watch this film because it's a treat. It's really a treat.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's one that'll have you thinking twice about sleeping.
And dolls. And mannequins.
And dolls. And mannequins.
And all of the above. Yeah.
And living
and moving to a new town where you don't know anybody, into a new house.
That's exactly what I just did.
Literally.
With all my dolls.
You brought it with me. But until next time.
Until next time, you guys. Bye, bays.
Bye, bays.
Boobays.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.